grandchildren are over in Australia and certainly would like to at least participate in a small way in at least being able to watch. So give them just a So I do, again, I want to just invite anybody to just stand up. You can remain where you are. I can share any stories. I will start with my own personal story. This is a story that I think I've told it 100 times already, but to me it just really spoke to who Duane really was in so many ways. I think this was last summer actually. I'd only been here for a couple of months, and I'd just finished Saturday night mass here. And Duane, LaDonna, and Dana had invited me out to dinner over at the Naked Moose. And you guys are already well familiar with the story. But anyway, we were sitting there having a good time, and we had sat outside. I had the fly swatter, and every time I got distracted and I wasn't swatting flies, Duane would chime in, "Father, pay attention. You have a job to do." Yes, Duane, I got it. So we're sitting there, we're talking, telling stories, and having a great conversation, and couldn't help but notice that our food wasn't coming out. Then I was looking over at the other tables, they weren't getting theirs either. I'm like, well, you know what, it's a Saturday night, they're busy, things happen, right? So I'm gonna just patiently await. Of course, sun's going down, we're starting to get a little chilly, and pretty soon, I noticed that people that got there after us got their food, and we had been sitting there for about 45 minutes. And I'm like, guys, listen, I hate to be this guy, but I'm just gonna go ask and see where our food is. So I go up and ask the waitress, and she's, oh yeah, it's coming out very, very soon. Well, a couple minutes later, she bolts out the door and is completely embarrassed, and she says, guys, I'm very, very sorry. We accidentally sent your food to the back, and we're out of all the things that you guys ordered, so you have to keep And don't worry, we're gonna put it in right away, you'll be the first ones out, and we're comping your meals. And, of course, Duane, he could not have cared less. So he sits there, hey, we gotta be somewhere, might as well be here. So we get our food, all things are great. And again, they told us that our meals were comped, that we don't have to worry about paying for it, and Duane was not having it. He absolutely would not take a free meal. And so he's trying to convince her to give him the ticket, and she's saying, no, it was our fault, we're comping your meals. Here, come over here. He's pulling a $50 bill. So she walks over and he shoves it right into her hand, and it just lets it go. And so she's like, well, fine, but this is all I'm taking. Of course, he follows it up with, well, you need a tip, don't you? He's like, no, this is our fault. We made you guys wait. And I just said to her, I said, well, you got kids at home, don't you? She said, well, yeah, but Duane, yeah, she needs a tip. So he threw another $50. I think he actually ended up paying more than if they would have just charged us. But that's just the patience, the wit that Duane always had. There were several times after Mass, he would always have a witty little saying for me, sorting alligators up there today, Father. And, Duane was always just such a joy. He was always just such a generous man, a good man, a wise man. And I think we'll all miss him sitting in that shop drinking his can of Coke. But that said, Dean actually gave me something that he wanted to have read. I didn't think that I could show that up, so that's why I went first. But I do want to share what Dean wrote for him, and then I just want to turn it open to anybody else who has anything to say about Duane, particular stories, etc. So, Duane, this is from your son. When you think of Duane, you think of a farmer, inventor, craftsman, and a conversationalist. The last thing you think of is a teacher, but it might have been what he was best at. Dad taught us through his action. He taught us how to be a great dad, how to be a great husband, how to love a great woman, how to fix anything. No project was too big, how to look him in the eye and shake hands, how to be a businessman, how to be a BSer. When he talked to someone, it was like they were the only one in the room that mattered. How to be a true friend, how to be generous. He never talked down to anyone. How to laugh. He always laughed with people, never at someone's misfortune. How to brighten up a room when you walked in and lift up everyone's spirits. He didn't complain, and he didn't like hypocrites. How to be a man. How to pray. How to be an inspiration when your own health fails. These are just a few of the lessons we learned from Dad. The biggest one he taught us is how to live a good life. Love deep. And with that, I would like to turn it open to anybody else who would have anything else to share.
Okay, that's a tough act to follow. You know, after they have left us, we all look for a sign. And this last weekend, I was with my daughter. And we were in Wisconsin. And we got the phone call about baby money. And Brooke and Taylor was playing hockey, and she said, "Oh, I just can't. I don't know what to do. I want to go home." I said, "Oh, you got to stay here, and you got to do this last game for Grandpa." As the last, when I left the room, she was staying. I said, "Well, this one's for Grandpa." Later on in the afternoon, I got the call. She scored the winning goal, and Grandpa doesn't know how to play hockey, so. And then I got one more story, and this might embarrass Mom just a little bit, but how everybody said Dad always had words. Well, I think Dana and I got him one time. He was bringing home this new Corvette. Well, and you got to have a sexy woman to put in this Corvette. So we got the idea to get Mom dressed up, and we did. I won't describe exactly what she wore, but there's a pole outside of our house. She posed. And Dad come driving up in this Corvette, and he got out, and he giggled, and he giggled. And he couldn't say a word. He just giggled. So, but I thank you everyone for coming and sharing stories. Dad would be just so happy to see everybody. Thank you.
Well, my name is Gary Arts. I moved away from that about 35 years ago, so a lot of you may not know me, but you probably know my brother Duane. So, anyway, Duane always had pliers or advice strip in his pocket, and I probably picked that up from him. He was so famous for it on his wedding day, my dad was telling me. It was a few minutes before the service, and so Father McKenna said, "Duane, you got your pliers so long?" And I think he pulled it out. The last thing that I spoke to Duane about, I spoke to him on his birthday about 3 weeks ago. And when we finished the conversation, we said, like a lot of you probably did with it, we said a Hail Mary. And then I said, "I love you, Duane." And he said, "Love you, Gary."
Okay,
Yes, absolutely.
my name's Tom Gisha. I'm from Westoe. Anyway, about 3-4 weeks ago, when I'm in the Antler area, I called Duane. I says, "Where you at?" He says, "I'm just Weston home, a few miles. He says, I'll be home in 15 minutes. This is perfect. I'll have a beer at the cabin. I'll meet you at home. So we meet, and it was the best hour and a half visit I've ever had in my life with this man. Lots of things were talked about, farming, ranching, and Antler Outlaws. Best group of guys ever. Okay, now I'm going to drop back about 61, 62 years ago. The first time I that I knew of Duane. I'm at the Antler Park with my parents at a dance at the big hall. My folks are out dancing, and all of a sudden they stop, and music stops, and my folks are visiting with this young couple, and I find out it's Duane and Donna. So anyway, as the night goes on, that was my first in park with Duane. So this man had a nice white hat on. Nice pair of deerskin leather gloves. Back pocket. Fingers out. Right, Madonna? One more thing. I'm going to step up. Belt. Am I wrong? I copied this man for many years. Good, bad, or otherwise. To me, it's always been good. Well, years go on. I end up in the Marine Corps. Well, you gotta have this military alignment. Okay, so let's fast forward 40 years. Now I'm involved in farming, and I get to know Shane, Dean, and Duane, of course. We get involved in some farming things, and it works out. It's good. Then comes along the Antler Outlaws. Man, what a group of guys. Where are we having more fun? I know, I'm sure you've all been in Antler when we've had all this fun. It just rolls and rolls and rolls. Okay, I lost my train of thought. Sorry. But anyway, it's just been a pleasure to know Duane and his family. It's just been nothing but fun. Oh, the story I was going to tell about Duane. Years ago, we put on these bank robbery things in Antler. Okay, so we think, well, maybe we should practice one night. We're going to put this skit on, so we should practice one night. Okay. So we all show up for this little practice run. Of course, some of us stick around a little longer at the cabin. So it gets to be into the evening, and Dean forgets to take his pistol out of his back pocket. So all of a sudden he decides he's going to rob the cabin. Boom, boom, boom. What in the world's going on? I'm back shooting pool with a couple of guys. I had an old black hat on at that time. And I know I should have been wearing a black one tonight. The first time I saw Duane, he had a white hat on. That's the white hat and the leather gloves. So anyway, Dean grabs his hat and gives it a fling across the bar. Boom, boom, boom. Whoa, Bart says, that's enough, guys. You gotta go home. So, okay, so now we cleared out. Of course, we've all had some spirits. Shane says to me, he says, you better come home with me. He says, I'm bachelor tonight. What was that, Shane? So anyway, I go home, yeah, stay there, sleep. I'm leaving the next morning about 9 o'clock. It wasn't early, so about 9 o'clock. So I called Duane. I says, Duane, what are you doing? He says, I'm sitting on the end of my bed with both my hands in my head. I'll never forget that evening. I had lots of good times with Duane, but that had to be one of the best. Best.
For those of you who don't know me, I'm Pete Arts. I'm the 12th of Gene and Harold. Duane asked me to say a few things. I got thinking, where do you start and stop with Duane Feland? The man lived life to the fullest. We were blessed. He was 25 years older than me, but you never knew there was an age gap with Duane. He loved everybody from young, old. I've had people call me since, and I've had people call me before they got to meet Duane Feland one time. And they couldn't believe how sincere, it's just like they knew him their whole life. And Duane treated everybody like that. I was so amazed at that gift that man had to make everybody feel, very special always. And when I talk about Duane, I should be talking Duane LaDonna, because I never hardly seen one without the other. That was so special. Dean, you nailed it. I think Duane LaDonna prayed all of us. We get wives and quit raising Cain like we were. And see that side of life that you guys got to enjoy, and the kids you raised, grandkids, great-grandkids. What a gift. It's quite an inspiration, LaDonna. And I've shared this at other funerals, I think I was probably 8, 10 years old when I built that fire hall in Antler. And farmers took the end gates out of their trucks, and I know it was Duane and Merton probably with the yellow equipment to load the gravel out of the gravel pit to haul the fill in, because we were limited funds, or they were limited funds, the fire department, I'm sure, but Duane showed that sense of spirit and community, what you can do if you do stuff together. He lived it, he taught it. You can talk about it, Duane taught it. And I was one of the beneficiaries of that. He showed you how to do things with the community and what power a community can have to get things done. All those building projects, we knew the feelings, and you're always welcome there. From the first sprayer, the cab on the 5020, I don't know if some of you guys remember that. We had to run up and see that. That was something. The rock picker, that was before my time. The sprayers he built, anything he touched, he was so talented. Just so willing to share, never bragged about it, just so. I remember we had a farm tour there one time. I think it was Donnie or Kenny asked the question, and I'd been in that shop 100 times, why was there steel underneath the welding table? I thought it was so the splatter wouldn't wreck the floor. It was for the ground. And I think you guys were as surprised as we were, and I've been in that shop 100 times. In the 80s, I worked for Scott Sagsby at the Implement in Westcote. And back then, the Versatile guys going, you're going to kick out of this. John Deere had a PIP program for change motors on 86 30s and 40s when they went bad and you get a brand new motor put in. And those 4 years I worked there, I got to work with Tony Otto. He was a very good mechanic. And I learned how, I was this grease monkey, I call it, and I helped him switch motors. And Duane was trading tractors, and he wanted to put the one motor in the one, the other. I said, Peter, he always called me Peter. He goes, Peter, would you come and help me with that? And of course I said yes. I mean, Shane and I and Duane, we backed them tractors in there, and of course John Deere had all the fancy splitting tools, and Duane had seen them once, but we'd be taking your tanks out doing what you gotta do, and Duane made the stands. I was amazed. I mean, the guy out of nowhere, here's this stand. I mean, it was professional as Duane would do. But anyway, when we were doing that project, an 8850 John Deere tractor rolls in there. And I'm gonna pick on you a little here, Steve, but Ralph was out there with Ralph would be doing his thing along the side, and I mean, neighbors were showing up just crawling over. I mean, an 8850, that thing was neat. And there was Ralph, you know, with his hand in his glove, hand on his hip, and the kids come home from school, and they were just crawling all over it. And Stevie gets on his motorcycle, it was right by that 8850, and Ralph had that look like somebody just found his prize bull dead in the water tank. Wayne goes back in windows. That kid ain't never gonna be a farmer. He rode right by that guy, and we laughed, Shane and I, we did That was priceless. Spring of '99, I don't know if you guys remember that, but it was wet and it was stress. We weren't going to get a crop in. I mean, everybody was on edge. And so one day I drove up to Duane's. Here they are racing go-karts. I mean, yeah, you couldn't be in the field, but they didn't sit and pout about it, be mad about it. They were having fun. They made lemonade out of lemons. I mean, I was so amazed at that. The Outlaws, when that got formed, we decided to build this, it started out at a 12 by 16 shelter, I think, and by the time Duane Feland got a hold of the project, here comes this 24 by 36, and we had people get on board, got money raised, and we decided we gotta get fill holes, so we can get cement poured that fall, and get this thing up and going, and so Duane, being Duane, he said he would load the fill until we get trucks lined up. So we got trucks lined up. And come 3:30 coffee or Coke time, as Duane called it, I said one of them trucks, I grabbed Duane, have him come in here, because we had the transit set up, and we were checking the high water mark on the old cook shack, and Duane come in, and they said, yeah, I think we're going to have enough dirt holding Dewey, and he had his Coke, and he said, somebody going to be right back out the payloader? Oh, we're done, aren't we? He says, no, I told you guys I'd give you a day with that payloader. He said, we're not quitting until this day's done. And thank God we did, because we've had 3 floods since then, and that thing's been within inches of going in the building. And Duane put another 6 inches of fill on that because he gave us a full day of work. He was proud of that. I'm sure other people will talk on the outlaw thing, but Duane was so proud of that outlaw group. He was the oldest outlaw, but I always said he was the youngest thinker. And if he was in the room, Gabe and I've talked about this many times, and Dean, Shane, you know, you'd hear him before you see him. And young people gravitated to that man. I was so impressed how many young people just couldn't get enough of Duane. I mean, we all couldn't get enough of Duane, but he truly loved the young people. He wanted to make a difference in their life. You know, when Duane had his stroke, there were some tough days following that. Therapy wasn't for Duane. But, you know, when Duane kind of got on the mend, I'll back up a little bit. The boys bought a new payloader. And I seen Duane, this was before his stroke, and I said, Duane, I hear the boys got your new payloader. Yeah. I said, what do you think of that? He goes, Peter, I could pick your teeth with it. But anyway, getting back to Duane and his stroke, one day I went up there for coffee. Everybody knows coffee's at 10 o'clock and 3:30. And 10 o'clock I go up there, and it had snowed quite a bit. And coffee table, everybody's there, but no Duane. I didn't say nothing, and about 20 minutes later, I heard the payloader going outside. And I said, where's Duane? And I think Shane pointed, he's right there. That's when I knew Duane was going to beat the stroke thing, because if he could get in that loader, look out, because he loved that loader. I mean, that was his deal. Hope I don't get too long here until on. A couple years ago, I had an open winter. And I always like to stop up, see when I have to get chores done. And I was a little late that day, probably 10:30. 2011 and walked in the shop, combine shop, and Duane was the only one in there. And we sat and visited, and it got to be about 5 o'clock. He says, Mom's got something for dinner, jump in. So I jumped in his pickup, and we drove up to the house for dinner, and LaDonna informed us that there was a basketball game at 5 o'clock, and we just visited. And I said, I'll just walk back, shop, give the car. No, you go, no, get in the pickup, I'll give you a ride. And old Dewey, he backs out of the garage, heads right for the mailbox. And I looked, I'm like, I thought you were giving me a ride to my car. He never said a word. Drove to the highway, took a left. It was an open winter. We spent, well, we were home by 10 to 5. We spent all afternoon, we were never on the pavement. I mean, we'd be going along and I'd say something, you know, and the brakes come on, he goes, Peter, you're right. You know, he'd stop and then we'd visit and we'd go along. We ended up at Mouse River Park. You couldn't get to Mouse River Park not getting on the highway or the Wheaton Road in the dead of winter. I'll guarantee I've been there. I was looking at it. And we stopped by the boys and just started farming over there, coaling time. But we spent that whole afternoon together, and I told Donna how many times that was so fun for Duane and I. We could talk about anything and everything, and he was a true friend. Last fall, Dino told me he was up on the border doing some cleaning up. I'd run up Chad's shop or something, and on the way I just shot up north of Truly's and got up there. I seen the yellow backhoe going, and there's a white pickup on the hill, so I drove up beside him and shut my pickup on, climbed in. An hour and a half later, Duane and I are still talking. We had the best afternoon, you know, and Duane told me many times, we tried the Arizona thing, it wasn't for him, but he enjoyed people stopping to visit him. He told me how, you know, so-and-so stopped, so-and-so stopped, so-and-so. How much that meant to him, young people, old people, would stop to see that, and he loved it. And I really think that's what kept Duane alive from his stroke on, was all the people that cared about him, like he cared for us. This summer, Dino rented some land he wanted to clean up, so I mowed it, or I was gonna mow it. I didn't even know where the land was, so I called Duane and said, Duane, you know where this land's at? Get in. We jump in the gator and we go for a drive, and so we found it, and so I moved up there and started hitting. Just about every day, Duane would come up there, he'd bring a bottle of water, Coke or whatever, he'd have a little, you get going, you're busy, you know, but he'd sit on the hill, and I'm sure he reminisced about the International on the 7-foot mower. And his Vermeer baler, he said he's not going to go to hell because he had that first Vermeer baler. He had to hate with that, so Duane would always giggle about that. But I'll let somebody else talk now. But in closing, you know, LaDonna, your family's so solid, and you have been an inspiration, you and Duane. Funerals, weddings, you know, we've hurt at funeral. You guys have been there for us, so it's our turn to be here for you. And you got a great family, and good luck.
I could go on and on too, but I got my electrical license, and I spent a lot of time up with Duane and LaDonna. I always tell people I used to get my mail up there because the kids are coming and going. But anyway, we're doing the addition on the house, and I happen to be working close to the kitchen, and the phone rings one day, and LaDonna gets it. It's for you, Duane. And anyway, it was Donnie. Wanted to go hunting. It was winter time. Of course, Duane, he'd already made plans. I think he was going over to Emma's. You know, I kind of cut bits and pieces. And of course, they talked for quite a while. The phone hangs up, and LaDonna says, I wish you'd just do something legal once. Right where we were going. Jimmy, you following us here? Boy, he had that high voice, we have to Austin happened to be with me. Of course, Austin was always this little guy that had lots and lots and lots of questions. And of course, we're out at the well, and it was getting dark. And one of Austin's questions was, well, do you own this farm? And of course, Duane, he kind of chuckled. Well, I own a lot of her, he said. Anyway, Duane pulls a flashlight out of his pocket, and of course, right then, Austin wanted the flashlight. So Duane gives it to him, and he pulls another one out. He said, I'm ready for this, he said. Duane just had that chuckle about him. Of course, we squirted some WD-40 on the switch and hit it with the back. Away it went. So he said, we'll get you knowing to get this fixed. But anyway, just Duane was that guy if you were broke down, he'd talk you through it or whatever. But we had a 9600 Pete and I did, and one of the walkers went out right in the heat of the battle and called Chad. Yeah, they'd come down and look at it. And of course, Duane was in the pickup, and can you get it up and get it in tomorrow? No, Chad says, well, they start unbolting, and finally out comes the walker. They was hanging in midair, and out come the vice grip, and Duane started pulling on that bent up part of the walker, getting it all ready to go, and went on the sawhorses, and I think 2 in the morning, that convoy was ready to go again. But anyway, thanks again, great neighbors. Duane, rest in peace.
I'm Larry Animal, and it's really an honor today to say something at my friend's family service. Me and Duane were friends for a long time. Everybody has friends, but God only gives you a few special friends, and he was a special friend to me. We talked a lot about the Bible, many hours. And he'd say, oh, you're crazy. I'm telling you, you don't know what you're talking about. And I know one time he really got on my case. When we went home that night, he always come over to the pickup and say goodbye. He reached in and squeezed my shoulder and he says, you know what? We're the same friends now as when you come. And to me, he was somebody that I could call in the middle of the night and he would be there. That's what a special friend is. And I really appreciated Duane. I know we didn't go do a lot of things, but when we did see each other, we were friends. And that's so important. And I got a poem I'd like to read. Those special memories of you will always bring a smile. If only I could have you back just for a while. Then we could sit and talk again, just like we used to do. You always meant so much, very much, and always will. The fact that you're no longer here will always cause me pain, but you're forever in my heart until we meet again. And what a day that will be. I sure do miss my friend.
So I was always amazed at my dad, because he could fix anything. And come out clean. Down south combining, I watched him. The motor went out in the pickup, outside of a hotel, and overhauled the motor, got out, and it was a bad job. And he took his handy-andies off, and like that, and it was just like he could have gone to church. It's just amazing. So many amazing things that my dad could do. Dad and I, we wouldn't be where we are without him, and Mom. And I don't know, he always had that smile, always there for us. The only time you didn't see him smile was if he had to put up the Christmas lights. Or the sewer went to hell. But Ellie, he kidnapped me the other day in the gator too. And that gator came at just the perfect time. Because he took me all around the farm, told me what he wanted, how he wanted it. And just said the best things about my husband and my kids, and it was like the perfect conversation. And it was like 2 days before that. So I just couldn't have better role models in my life. They shared their faith with us. And like I was at Grandpa Ralph and Grandma Wilma growing up, and my boys, they got to Duane and with the Donna. So I don't know. Thank you all for being here and sharing in Dad's life.
For those of you that don't know me, I'm married. Blessed to be part of the family through that, and they treated me like another son. Truly appreciate that. I've learned some things from Duane. Some really important things in life. One, you carry your wallet in your front pocket because you ain't gonna lose it then. Belt buckle thing like Tom said. And you always farm with green. And you always drive a Chevy, because I learned that when I saw the Ford parking on the dumpster out at their farm. But I learned a lot of more important things. I learned how to treat your mom. I watched him with Wilma. How to treat your wife. I watched him with Donna. And one of the very first times I ever met him, we talked about lots of different things, but he said 2 important things. Don't steal and don't lie. And those are really strong things that really resonated and should resonate with everybody, but it was 2 things he really lived by. But, you know, the other 3 things that he really taught me were the 3 F's too, just by the way he lived his life and how he talked, which was faith, family, and friends. And that's why all of you are here. Thanks.
Well, I just have 2 short things. One was, my mom used to always put up a real Christmas tree, and one year she decided she wasn't doing that anymore, and she wouldn't have an artificial tree. So she had me go up to the shelter belt and get a big branch. And we put that in the house, and she decorated it. She put lights on it, she put bows on it, and then one night before Christmas, Southlands were over, I think Hersted's were over, Duane and LaDonna came, and Duane could not stand that tree. He bugged her all night. He tried to give her money so she could go buy a tree. He teased her, and she did it for a few more years. But he shook his head. He thought that was the dumbest thing. Who would go get a branch from the shelter belt and put lights on it? But he laughed and laughed about that tree, and he teased her so bad. And then this spring when we lost Mom, Duane and LaDonna came over. Every day after she passed, we saw this moose in the yard, and Duane and LaDonna wanted to leave the house, but the moose was right in the garden, very close to where their pickup was parked. So obviously, we're not going to let them walk outside with this moose so close to the house. So my sister Steph, who is the most interesting of all three of us, but she opens the sliding glass door and she starts hollering at this moose. He just turns and looks at her and goes back to eating off the tree. So then she's like, well, what's a moose called? So she starts this grunting. And then someone said, well, we've seen the moose every day since Mom passed. Maybe it's Mom reincarnated. So then she starts yelling, Carol! Carol! Out the sliding glass door, and we're all standing with Duane and LaDonna watching her, and we're laughing. And Duane shakes his head and he says, you know, she can't call moose for shit.
We always say to dance up and do a visit that they had a really great run after we got. Just, I think they had a good life, satisfied with life.
Okay, I got a real quick one. My husband had bought a cowboy hat. He was so excited. We're going to Outlaw Shack. And he's looking for Duane. He's got this squeaky cowboy hat he bought in Vegas. He knew it was kind of expensive, so he was excited to show Duane. And he said, wow, how many X's are in that Stetson? And he looked and he was, oh, there's 4. It's pretty good, right? 4 stars. And he's like, well, how many are in yours? And he kind of took it off and he said, I don't know, mine are kind of worn out. My eyes aren't very good. And Stacy was sitting next to him. And Stacy, can you read this? She said, well, Duane, there's 200 X in that one. He giggled the rest of the night.
I think it's learned a lot of lessons from Dad, and I think we all have. I'll tell you a quick story of when I was a kid, just got a car, and I think as Peter had mentioned, I'm not probably the most mechanical of the whole group here, but I think I'm probably the most stubborn. And I had to put a clutch in my Nova, and I wasn't gonna really ask Dean and Shane because they tease the ever-living daylights out. But there were a lot of hey dads. So hey dad, hey dad. I'm gonna miss the hey dads. I got the clutch, I got everything put up, I was putting it back up under the car, I was under the car, on the creeper, and the transmission fell on. And just as that happened, Mom walked through the shop door, and I let out a string of obscenities that would have made Grandpa Ralph proud. And Mom just poked her head into it. You okay? I'm fine. And she left, and he said, I got everything put together, and I came tearing down to the house later on that night, and I had everything good to go. And I was proud to tell Dad, hey Dad. And he goes, you know, When you let out when the transmission fell on you, he goes, I was the one that got in trouble because those were my words.
LaDonna, can I tell one on you? Can I tell the one where you got your husband? Okay. This was after Duane had a stroke, and he had gotten up pretty early in the morning, I guess, and was in the shower, and he was coming out of the bathroom, and he didn't have no towel on or anything. And LaDonna says to him, you better hurry up, you know, Marion's on her way. He took the walker up and started going around as fast as he could. I don't know, when did he start calling me Little Ed?
We've been good friends with this family, and they've been pretty special. I don't really know how you sort down one or two just really good stories of Duane, because it was a lifetime full of it. And I mean, from a bear trip up into Canada with the son, where pearl white, brand new four-wheeler, came back missing a tire, with some beaver innards and kind of looking like it had maybe spent a month or two at our ranch. To Dean and I building boats in his woodworking shop, one of the most meticulous, talented woodworking craftsmen that I know, would come out halfway through our project and we'd kind of just look. And he'd turn around and walk back and never say a word. The final project was done, and he came out and we got the nod of approval. And he knew that it meant something. And so I'm not really good at this, doing stuff off cuff like this. So if you bear with me, I shared something with some friends and family about Duane, and it's more of a tribute than a collection of memories. And I'd just like to take a moment and share that with those of you that might not have heard it before. Several years back, a term was coined describing an age group of Americans called the Greatest Generation. And I can say that those of us in our communities have been blessed tremendously by knowing some of the best of that greatest generation. And last Sunday, one of the best was called. And Duane Feland lived a life that was beyond any measure of happiness or success that one could. Duane Feland was a true gentleman of rare integrity. And he had a willingness to share the happiness of his life with not only his many friends, but people he had just met that were never a stranger for very long. I shared a couple of pictures in this post of Duane and LaDonna and my mom and dad that were at a branding that we'd held a few years back. And if you looked really close, you would see that Duane and LaDonna were standing there arm in arm. And that's the way it was. Hardships and happiness, joys and sorrows, they faced them side by side together. They knew that whatever might come, tomorrow promised a new day, and that hard work that was their life reaped great rewards of a beautiful life. As the son of one of those two couples, I became friends with the other sons and daughters of Duane and LaDonna. And for good reason. They are brought me to a friendship with Duane, carried through in his son becoming one of my best friends, and that I've been blessed to share memories that many wonder if they're just tall tales, because they are truly some of the grandest things that a couple of guys could ever experience. There are so many memories of Duane, it's impossible to sort through to the best. 5-minute visits that lasted an hour, little boys listening wide-eyed to stories of adventures of old from Duane, watching in awe as he spoke with each one of them by name, and then he made them feel like they were the only person in the room, and he had that unique specialness with all the young people who were in his life. He was always smiling about the feistiness of those boys' daughters, or sisters, the little sisters. Excuse me. He was always smiling about the feistiness of the little sisters, keeping up and sometimes outdoing their brother. The smile, the laughter, unique in its own recognizable way, yet warm and welcoming to anyone within itself. I often watched after hearing that laughter at the crick as people would look and they'd smile and they'd start to gravitate to where that sound was coming. And they knew that once they got there, there would be a story or a joke shared and a laugh and a smile, and they were never once disappointed. I will miss those stories and jokes. When I knew I had a good one, I could already hear that laugh when I knew I was going to be able to tell it to Duane. And that would always lead to one hold in return, and the smiles and the tears of laughter would roll sometimes on and on into the night. I will miss the simple, honest, common sense talks about life, business, friendships, family. It seemed to make troubling things clear and bring a peace of mind from a different point of view. I will miss this fine man, a friend who shared by showing how to live a life well and with no regrets. But I will cherish these memories, and I will share them for years to come with my friends. The legacy that Duane left is family. And in those friends and family, his smile will live on. I know when Duane walked through the early days and that laughter floats through the heavens, there's going to be a couple of old Norwegians, some friends and family that are going to smile because they know their friend is being home. I hope there's some coyotes in heaven, and I hope there's an old barrel there. Duane was a very special.
I'm Duane Arts, Gary's brother. Our farm was a half mile from the Feland farm. My folks started farming up there in like 45 or 46. Ralph and Wilma were our neighbors, and my mom said, if Wilma had two of anything, she gave Mom one of them. They were friends forever. Birthday's on the same day, July 17th. I can't ever remember not being welcome going over to Duane and Adonis, or Ralph and Wilma either. And I always cherish the times, love to be there at coffee time. You learn say. One thing I noticed about, they practice what they preach. I would watch, Ralph had a brother, Ted in Westville, and after church pretty much every Sunday they'd go over, and he would by himself go over and visit him, make sure he was good. Seen that passed down to Duane when his mom went to assisted living and then she was in the home, and he really looked after her, took care of her, just like he did his family. And that impressed me. When he was the ramrod of the Outlaws, I suggested it, started it, and all, like Pete said, Duane says the greatest bunch of guys in the world. But he's the one that got it done. Did the planning and got us all organized. I'm singing this song tomorrow too, but this crowd here tonight, it's a love song. It's a song about somebody who's gone away. And they don't know if they'll ever see him again before they die. And the song is Danny Boy. Oh, Danny Boy, the pipes are calling from glen to glen and down the mountainside. The summer's gone and all the roses falling. It's you must go and I must bide. But come ye back when summer's in the meadow, or when the valley's hushed and white with snow, and I'll be here in sunshine or in shadow. Oh, Danny boy, oh, Danny boy, I love you so. But when ye come and all the leaves are dying, and I am dead, as dead I well may be, you'll come and find the place where I am lying, and kneel and say an Ave there for me. And I shall hear, though soft you tread above me, and all my grave will warmer, sweeter be. And you will bend and tell me that you love me, and I shall sleep in peace until you come to me. Oh, Danny boy, oh, Danny boy, I love you so. Rest in peace, my friend.
I was just gonna say that when I was a kid, I got my first red fox and went up at my Grandpa George's, and we were skinning it out and everything was going pretty good, and Duane come up and was watching us, and
all of a sudden the tail got pulled off. And Duane said, well, that's a nice fox, but you're not supposed to pull the tail off. And then I guess there just times we went out arrowhead hunting, and sometimes I remember I found a kind of a beat up one, and Duane would always try to make you feel good, and that's a beauty, you know. So I guess I'm going to miss seeing him, because he was always real special. He had a good fella.
I just wanted to say, most of us grandkids were too young or not born yet before Grandpa Ralph died. So none of us met him or don't remember him too much, but all of us have heard his stories. All of us know his Norwegian accent and his big hands, and he was the hero to all of our stories. So Grandpa Duane will be entertaining another generation with all of his stories, I know that for sure. He'll be the hero of all their stories too, and they'll know all of his stories.
I just wanted to say that he was a huge inspiration to my son and I. He always gave you, if you're having a rough time, he'd always just let you know, it's going to get better. It's in someone else's hands. And he'd always talk to Christoph about his drumming. And Christoph just wanted to say that he cherished every moment he was with them.
So we all know how much Grandpa Duane loved his family and friends the most. But the two things he always said that he needed every year to make him happy were a new coat with his feathers and a new pickup. And so I was working at the bank this summer, and he came in with that smile and his giggle. And as soon as everyone heard the giggle, all the bank ladies came to the front to say hi to him. And then he stayed and talked to me when I should have been doing my coins, but I talked to him for a while, and he goes, I want to show you something. So he got his new pickup. And I guess this was last month. I go out there, I'm like, oh, it's really great, Grandpa. He's like, what color is it? I was like, I didn't know if this was like a trick question or not. So I was like, it's white. And he's like, well, I ordered gray. I wanted gray, but, and he still had a smile on his face. He was still happy. And then he goes, but it's okay, because the new one comes out in a few months.
So, I don't know how to put into words what kind of man he was. He was a good man, even better grandfather. And I sure don't have any stories that can top anyone else's. I'm here maybe 3 times a year. We live up in Canada, but every time I'm here, I always remember the trips. What I remember the most, though, about 2-3 years ago, came down, just started high school. He asks, so what class are you in? And well, I tell him, and then I was like, this is going to be it. It's just going to be a short conversation. Ends up being nearly 2 hours long. And I tell him all the things I want to do, everything I'm interested in for that. And then, you know, COVID hits. We're stuck up in Canada. I can't really come down and see. But last summer, we got the chance to come back out and visit everyone. Well, he asked again what classes I'm in, and I told him, and pretty much everything had changed. I'm not doing any of the things I used to do. But he didn't care. He sat there and he listened and he smiled. He didn't say a word because he didn't have to. And well, when I heard that he passed, it was right around the time of Thanksgiving for us up in Canada. It made me think back, and I'm just thankful that he was here in my life.
We all lost a lot of wisdom with him. He was so smart at everything that he said and did. 20-some years ago, I was talking with him. He asked what I planned on doing, moving on this farm. And I said, well, I thought maybe I'd raise some dogs. And he said, no matter what you raise, start with the best genetics you can get. Go and get the best genetics. And if you guys, we all know, you look around at these Southern girls and you know that he was right.
Well, everyone, I just want to, first of all, thank everyone for all the wonderful stories that you shared with Duane tonight. Again, I think I speak for everyone on how he had a very powerful impact on many, many people. Again, to the family especially, I just want to assure you of my prayers and the prayers of the parish. Duane was a very, very good man, and we pray for him and all of our prayers for you. That will conclude our evening for tonight. Tomorrow the funeral proper will be at 11 o'clock right here at St. James, and we hope to see you there. God bless.